Oh, hello, hello. Thankful it's Friday. I am making another website eulogy video, as this website of mine, which I made for my Master's of Library and Information Science at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where I graduated from in May of 2024. This website was made during that time for a class, and I'll get to that. The website is made in the style of what's called a lib guide or a library guide, essentially helping a person navigate the library in a way that would help that person with a research about that topic. So this topic is banned books. So the website is the usbookcensorship.wordpress. Very, you know, catchy, right? Anyway, so it's all about America's banned books, but it can be used, the strategies within, to find, to access censored literature outside of the USA, even though that's the headline that I put. I was, I think I was having my web design course during the same semester as this course that I created this lib guide website or WordPress for. But I don't know if I wouldn't use all the same strategies today, but I'm just documenting this website because supposedly, according to WordPress, tomorrow this website dies. So I don't know if that means it will never be accessible again. The other websites I had aren't accessible any longer. You'll see them along the way. But this one about banned books in the USA, I put like links, not always in as obvious of places, but where the mouse becomes like a clicker, a hand. That's where there's a link. So I'm gonna let you just see. This is a photo I took with my own cell phone, I believe, back when I worked at the Sycamore Public Library. Sorry for the ambulance in the background. This is real life, people. South side of Chicago. Anyway, uh, when I was working there, and at every library, there's always a banned book week at the end of September, usually, or the beginning of October. It might fluctuate a little bit, but sometimes libraries expand it to a month. Anyway, ta-da! This is one of the photos I took while I was working there. Ta-da-da. And I don't read for you, but I will let you read for yourself. You can pause and read. And all those yellow links I did make accessible, but then there's also like links to like the rights of WordPress, you know, these little whatever. So, there are websites that I link people to and other uh, sources of information, but I will eventually explore these two tabs that I created, but they're kind of hidden now that I see. I've done the web design course I talked about. These tabs aren't as easy to access, but let's quickly go here. Yay! This is an old photo of me when I was in my bachelor's years, and I'm sorry for the people in the photo. I hope they probably can recognize themselves, but I don't think these individuals are recognizable in my glasses. It was just a really cool photo. It's always a time when the rainbow flag is being challenged. So I, for better, for worse, I'm brave for beyond my own good. Another photo I took from that while I was working at the Sycamore Public Library. They did fire me for a no call, no show, they said, during the pandemic on World AIDS Day as well. I don't have AIDS or HIV, but I have people in my life who have it or who have died from it. So it was very crazy that on a day when I actually have my cell phone records, and I did FOIA the library eventually, and I have those records, and there's proof of me calling and emailing and texting multiple individuals about my sickness during the pandemic, the weekend after Thanksgiving. Anyway, so blah, blah, blah. They fired me though for quote unquote a no call no show. It's a lie. People get fired for lies. Also, did you read this part yet? These two websites aren't alive anymore. They already got killed this year. And there's this, who was created for it. Professor's name, the course title. These articles should still be accessible, but I have made a few videos on YouTube about them as well. Let's see. Ba-da-ba-da. Yes, this article is accessible still. I didn't make a video about this article yet, and I didn't slowly reel through it for you to read yet, but I published it while I was living in Urbana, Illinois, for the Public Eye, which is a, independent article publisher. They do publish on paper, and they also publish, digitally. This article I did make a video about, so I'm not going to put as much time into it here. There's a whole video about it. This article says I need to accept cookies. That's one I did for when I worked at the Urbana Free Library. Another one, there's a video about this article, but again, another book video I did for the Urbana Free Library. And these were the two web pages I built for the web design course I had while I was at the University of Wisconsin-Madison for my Master's of Library and Information Science. This one was about my art, which I am an artist. This one is about my labor organizing past and views. I don't have a job, y'all. And if that's not news to y'all, then y'all have been paying attention. But and I can't get one. This is month 8. I applied to over 800 jobs. I've had 5 interviews from those 800 applications, and jobs just be going away. Everyone's getting laid off. So the pool of people to compete with is larger and larger. So these are research strategies that you can use when you are looking for censored material. There's ways to access it through translation and VPNs. And there's ways to search for it better through, I was a student at this library back then, so, if you have affiliation with libraries, those often help, especially university libraries. And Boolean operators are smart ways to research. So let's see how I speak about these. Because, this website's going to be gone, so I got to document it. I made it. If you were a student at a university library, you probably have access to similar features as this. Or most, like in the state of Illinois, I can use Illinois university libraries as a resident of Illinois. If I show my ID, I have limited services, but that is accessible too. So also most public libraries have a relationship with a local university library that you can then use in a similar fashion to like interlibrary loan books. You might have to pay a small fee depending on the university, but this is one way that you can use libraries and their search engines to find good materials for your interest in a banned book or a censored topic. Okay, this was made almost 4 years ago today, this website. And this was an old handle I used to have when I created it in high school, Cynicism. Booleans, you don't know about those. All right. It's the power of a search engine. But with everyone using AI now, it's like people aren't even trying anymore on search engines. But if you want to like do a human focused and like human centric research, this is how you would do it using the tools of, librarians use through search engines and etc. databases. VPNs are a magical tool for surfing the web on other countries. I guess like saying that. I write about it here. I understood it back then a little more nuanced than like I feel like it's changed in 4 years. So like this is like how I understood it back then. And again, it might not operate the same exact way right now, but y'all can read. I expect you to be able to read. That's my teacher voice. Just kidding. I did not speak like that as a teacher. If you are able to read other languages, sometimes finding it in another language, or if you can like hobble your way, like I can hobble my way through Cyrillic on Wikipedia, you know, Portrait Doriana Gray. But anyway, sometimes this is a way to access something or information about something that you might not be able to get in your own nation or country or language group area because, I don't know, maybe your country or your culture doesn't like something about this, you know, literature, you know. Oscara, where is it? Oscar Wilde, you know, he was gay and punished for it in England before he died. So, like, people who have problems with that probably are trying to suppress his literature, like Russia. That's research strategies I have for those of you who want to access censored material. Those who want to find the sources of censored material, like what is censored? How do I get access to it? What are the books I need in my life? So this is things I offered people, little, you know, this was part of my website design heyday or whatever, infancy. Again, I probably wouldn't design it exactly the same now, but this was my attempt to have those like, I don't know, little images you would click on. And then, so this is obviously very common for a lot of people now. YouTube is a way to learn about a topic. You know, I still do this when I'm trying to like just get the skim the layers, but you got to be careful now because like I think there was a time when you could maybe not trust everything, but you could more easily tell trustworthy from less trustworthy content creators. And now it's tougher to tell y'all. Just 4 years out. Wikipedia, people bash this so much, but it's really a helpful tool to just start in a topic where you might not know a lot of, and then you use it, and maybe you compare it with other languages you might read. Like I read in French, I can read Arabic, I can read Hebrew, I can read Cyrillic languages. I don't always know what I'm reading, but I can hobble my way through a lot of times. So like, you know, if I want to like see what said in the French Wikipedia versus the American or English Wikipedia, right? And even Wikipedia is like for British and Canadian as well. So like, you know, you can compare different things like that on Wikipedia where you can't actually compare that in other encyclopedias or even other articles systems online. So it's just helpful. And then you can see what sources they use. And then the sources they use in the Wikipedia article can help you determine if that Wikipedia article is even like good to use or not. So if you're needing a journal, like a journal is where people publish articles and those people are supposedly experts in their field or rising experts in their field. You know, I tried to publish some articles too. They got rejected. Anyway, I made a video about that. But, you know, Banned Book Week, which the American Library Association publishes, that's been out since 1984. Go figure. I'm just playing. There's more than just that. That's just the journal publication of it. There's like online versions, there's newsletters now, there's booklets, there's, you know, databases, you know. I'm trying to be a little sassy. These are collections that experts already organized for you. Like, if you need something about history, well, then you can go to this database, historical abstracts from 1955 to now, and you can use the topics and just find all historical abstracts written by people who are studying history, right? They probably got some interesting things to say since they study the topic for, you know, 6 to 8 years before they write articles like this about it. Then if you want literature, again, these are people who study literature for 6 to 8 years and they write articles since 1926, right? Maybe you don't agree with everything they say, but they read the works that maybe you didn't have the gumption to read and they wrote articles about it that you can skim and like, oh, that's interesting. Let me look more into that. Again, starting points, right? More books about books, right? You can access these books other ways. And if you don't know, if ever you're in a library's catalog, you should use a book that you like as a jump off point to other books you might want to research by looking at like the subjects used to describe the book, or like maybe that author or the publisher are, people who write or publish similar kinds of material, and that's a way to jump off from one good book to maybe many. If you need to read books, people aren't reading books anymore, but hey, if you want to, I recommend it. People use a lot of time and energy to write them, so I'm pretty sure they do something good with them. You know? And we want to read some articles written recently. What are, current trends in libraries about this topic? Ba-da-ba-da. Maybe not current for 2007, but you get to maybe this same top library has something from 2026 that's about a similar topic that you could find through this jump off point, right? And then look at these are the subjects of that book. A lot of these subjects of that book above look really interesting for a research about banned books in the USA. Not everyone. There's a lot of conservative folks who are bashing EBSCO because it, quote unquote, it allows people access to censored material. Researchers need access to certain material that helps fill out their perspective on a topic. Otherwise, researchers sound like fools when they speak about topics that they aren't well informed. That's not a good way to spend our education dollars in the USA to have our experts misinformed. That's stupid. Another EBSCO host database, not for literature, but for history. Again, maybe this book from 2020, that's a not book, it's an article, isn't exactly what you want. Maybe it's a good jump off point. I love that phrase, jump off point. And a lot of people have issues with, maybe the proprietary rights and things of that nature going on to things like Google Books. And I have my own issues with Google and the way they are operated and their funding of AI, etc. But sometimes, your access to material requires a small contribution of money just to access it where you are through a VPN, through Google Books, etc. Right? That way you can read it in China or Iran or, Uganda or something like that. Maybe you want to buy it, right? And actually start one of those book sanctuaries that I'll talk about later. Maybe you can't find it at a local library or getting it interlibrary loan seems like maybe suspicious in a way for where you live, and you don't want to live with that kind of suspicion upon you. I don't know, there are ads in my WordPress, but okay. Try to put some humor in here and then ruin it with some advertising. Then, as I said, ALA, American Library Association, that's the big folks for library studies and research. They research this and they publish books about it. Look at that, another one of these advertisements. Gross. Okay, sorry. I get caught up in my emotions. I'm trying to not look at it. Ha! So just as we're just like, I'm trying to show you how to dissect a little bit, like publication details about, this is a journal. And as I said, there's the publication, and then there's also like the material put out to like, I guess one could say it's propaganda, but it's also like it's just publication, it's journalism, it's, capturing reality, it's documenting this really scary thing that goes on in our nation of the United States of America. Maybe it goes on in your country as well. If you need to get past your country's censorship with VPN, here's some ways to get. This is a DuckDuckGo page to help you access different websites. Maybe when you research this on your web browser, you get different websites. So, ta-da! Here are some you could use or click on instead. You would need to type in the URL directly into your web browser and see if your country allows you access to these articles, because maybe some countries out there don't let you read cyber news, and I don't even know if that's like a valid article source, but maybe you just can't access it at all. This is a YouTube video from 5 years ago only. Got a lot of likes, a lot of comments. Maybe this is a good jump off point for you. Shorter than my video. It's a lot prettier looking. Maybe you're needing just a review of, what the topic and large, or maybe like what are the types of books that get banned. And here is another, research guide for you. Here's what is accessible as of today about this topic on YouTube. A lot of this looks like AI slop, but hey, there are probably a few human created, like, well, okay, created things out there. I don't know where they are anymore, but my video is human created. And then we got United Against Book Bans. This is the website that kind of the American Library Association helps sponsor, but it is directly focused on the issue of book banning in the United States, which is, contrary to our ideas of liberty and the First Amendment. And this is the book sanctuary. So maybe you're not able to buy a lot of books, but maybe you are able to invest in a few here and there, and you can keep a small sanctuary of those books. We call them endangered books, the books that are, banned and maybe harder to get a hold of, and you just buy a copy and hold it. And, you know, I am a member of the Chicago Library, so I will certainly promote them. They help promote book sanctuaries. Illinois is a state where banning books is not allowed, but it doesn't mean that where you live, it's not allowed. So anyway, that was my website. It is about to die, y'all. I, have mixed feelings about it, but now that these websites that I used to own are passing away, gives me a chance to start something new. I don't know what it will be, but by the time I'm 38, which is coming soon, I'll have another website that will have access to all of I've written, all that I've painted, all that I've photographed, all that I've, like, not every single thing, but like the big ones, the poetry, and it will be all in one place. And YouTube won't be able to take it down, or LinkedIn won't be able to take it down, or Tumblr won't be able to take it down. It'll be all there. Peace and blessings, as I used to say. I'm just thankful it's Friday. How about you?